Welcome back to the Bryan Devore Connection. I'm your host, Bryan Devore. Aging well. Well, we all want to do it, and there are certain ways to make sure you do it well. And here to talk to us today about aging well is Jacqui Clark with Aging Well Partners. Jacqui, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you, Bryan. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here. So aging well, like I said, it's something we all want to do, but there are certain ways you want to do that. So let's first talk about you and what it is you do and how you got started.
I am a certified senior advisor, and I'm a consultant with Aging Well Partners. It's a company that was started about almost 2 years ago because after being in the senior space for about 7-8 years, I realized that there was a need to help people age well. I was helping people at the very end of their life, but there was a big need for kind of figuring out how to get to the end of their life in a better fashion.
Got it. Okay. So I know that a lot of the work you do is with seniors who are looking for maybe the next chapter of their lives, where they're going to live, maybe how they're going to live, and you have a couple partners that you work with. We've had Julie on here before as well. So tell us about kind of how you go about helping seniors in that stage of life.
So if you ever jump on our Aging Well Partners website, we offer a big resource for almost anything that you would need to age well, from financial planning to real estate to assisted living, memory care, sometimes just straight consulting on, I don't know what I should be thinking about. And this aging process can start in our 40s, really, 50s. Actually, the day you're born, you're aging, so you better get going.
Better start planning.
Better start planning. And I just find that the ones that are successfully doing this are really not just planning to retire, which is the financial part, but planning to age, meaning what kind of quality of life are we trying to accomplish?
Right. So unfortunately, there are challenges in our life, no matter what we're doing. There are the 5 biggest challenges that people face when aging well. I want to talk about that. The first one is not having a purpose.
Right. Not having a purpose is huge. We have this script in our mind that at a certain age we retire, and to some people it means we're retiring from our jobs. So I think most people think we retire from life, and we can't. We have to keep doing the things we want to do. And even if we're no longer able to, say, run that marathon that we love doing, there are other sports, there's other hobbies. We have to have a purpose in our life so we can continue just to thrive. Thriving is key to aging well.
Right, no, for sure. I remember when my grandfather retired, and he didn't live much longer after that because he was just sitting in his chair and didn't really have much of a purpose. Kind of tied to that is seizing the day versus someday.
Right. Oh, this is probably one of the biggest challenges to aging well is a lot of us get so caught up in planning financially, our documents, super important, we should be doing that. But then the sad part is that I'm seeing a lot of people just dying suddenly because we don't have a crystal ball for how many years we get on this planet. And so they've missed the opportunity to actually live that life they've been planning so hard financially for. So don't wait to put off that trip to Europe, or I'm going to go to the Grand Canyon, or I'm going to see my family, or I'm going to write that book. Today's the day. Just start it now. I mean, I don't know what we're waiting for because we really don't have a crystal ball on when it's done. So, and not to sound macabre, but
Well, no, it's true. And especially with the last few years, with COVID, it really crystallized for us what's important and what we need to do. And it prevented us from being able to do some of those things. Now we have more freedom, again, to go out and do the things we want to do, create the life we want to create. So now's the time to do it. So speaking of which, however, you are tied to a schedule somehow, being tied to your calendar. Talk about that challenge.
Oh, yeah. Calendars are great. And if without our calendar, we may never get anywhere or get anything accomplished. But also to be a slave to your calendar is terrible. If you're so inflexible with changing your calendar when an amazing opportunity pops up. I know that, case in point, getting a dentist appointment takes forever these days, or any kind of appointment. So, you wait 2 months for it, but then that friend who you haven't seen in 10 years says, I'm going to be in town, and the only time I can see you is during that time. I think that's when you say, I'll be there at the lunch. I mean, you will get more out of seeing an old friend, or saying yes to something, a game that of one of your loved ones, your children, or whatever it is, than you will keeping this rigid calendar. Calendars were just meant as guidelines, in my opinion. So
right, and you tend to regret the things you don't do versus the things you do. And so, you may stick to your calendar, but then it's like, what are the things that you didn't get to do, even yesterday or last week? You may not have a chance to do it again.
Right. Regret is a huge part of aging. Is like you don't want to get to the end and have regret.
Right. Exactly. The fourth thing is a lot of people do the right thing by planning to retire, but they're not planning to age.
Right.
Talk about that.
So yes, you plan your documents. We've talked about financials, super important. I think people get that. I think that's really easy to understand. But planning to age is like, am I checking in? Are my relationships healthy? Have I taken care of my body? Do I need to take care of something? If I'm a diabetic, am I managing that right? Am I getting rid of toxic relationships? Am I pursuing all the things that I feel would make me happy? But here's a big one: getting rid of toxic relationships, including family. I mean, I know that's not a popular thing to say, but sometimes we have to say no to the relationships in our family in order to have good relationships in our life. And I think that's a really healthy part of aging.
Yeah, and it's a challenge, I think, for some people who feel like, well, I have to keep this relationship, I have to do this or that, and then it just wears on you,
right.
Physically and emotionally, and mind-body connection. When things are emotionally heavy, it can affect your body and how it reacts. It just snowballs,
right?
For sure. All these things are sort of tied together in a lot of ways with the fifth challenge, starting too late.
Right. Oh wow, starting too late. Yeah, we sit around, planning our retirement. And I'm not sure what people's vision is. I think sometimes, as you said, they say, "Well, I'm retired. I'm gonna sit in a chair, and then what?" And we're just kind of waiting to die. But planning to age is again, when you're waiting too long, it's that you think that you're never going to die or you're never going to age. And even in your 40s and your 50s, you may not be able to do everything that you were able to do in your 20s. Doesn't mean you can't do a different version of it, but you have to start looking at, I'm taking that European trip and I'm doing it next week, or I'm doing it this year. I'm doing it this year no matter what. It's not a matter of how, it's a matter of how am I going to do this? And that's like a different mindset, I think, that we just don't think about. Yeah, for
sure. No, that's important. You want to talk about a note on relationships.
Oh yes, I would say that over the last almost 10 years of working with people towards the end of their life, I think the biggest thing is regret, and it's regret of relationships. Not mending relationships, not getting rid of relationships, or never maybe cultivating a relationship that they wanted in their life. Relationships is probably the most important thing in our lives that create happiness, and happiness helps you age well. I've never met someone at the end of their life who was happy and didn't have good relationships. So get those in check for sure.
It makes a big difference.
It does.
It's the quality and the quantity. And again, back to where we were the last few years, it was hard to really keep those relationships, and you couldn't do it in person, so you had to do it on Zoom and what have you. But I think the ones who did the best during the pandemic were the ones who figured out ways to keep those relationships going, whether calling your parents or doing Zooms. I reconnected with college friends on Zoom and having those relationships, and that can really carry over to kind of all aspects of your life, retirement and before retirement too.
Absolutely, very, very true.
Yeah, so if you want to learn how to age well and avoid these challenges, you want to contact Jacqui. Her information is on screen for those of you who are watching. If you're listening on Spotify or another one of the podcast stations, then her information is going to be in the description. Jacqui, thank you very much for joining me today and sharing your wealth of knowledge.
Thank you, Bryan.